This week, the sports world is in shock as 15-time major champion Tiger Woods got in a car accident this week, resulting in an emergency surgery to his ankle and lower leg. And this past weekend, another shocking event as this Boeing 777's engine exploded midair, the incredible pilot safely landing the plane, meaning no one was injured. In the UK, a groundbreaking court case in which Uber drivers won the case that they should be considered employees, not independent contractors. President Biden made his first military action this week as he ordered an airstrike in Syria, targeting Iranian-backed militias. Biden also made a trip to Houston today to survey the damage from the storm, talk to local leaders, and see the mass vaccination site. And finally tonight, as cases drop and vaccinations increase across the country, a grim milestone was hit this week: 500,000 American lives lost due to COVID-19. Good morning, and it's great to have you with us here on this Friday. There was a lot of news to get to this week, from the airstrike in Syria to the Boeing 777 engine explosion. Our team is standing by to carefully guide you through it all tonight, and we will begin today with Tiger Woods' scary car accident this week in Los Angeles. He is currently recovering in a hospital, and JSA's sports analyst Grant Rothfeder has the details.
Earlier this week, tragedy struck the sports world as five-time Masters champion Tiger Woods was severely injured in a car accident within Los Angeles County. Just 2 days prior, Woods was seen at the Genesis Invitational as he was hosting the PGA Tour event. And just 24 hours prior to his accident, he was seen with former NBA star Dwayne Wade playing golf. In the crash, Woods suffered serious leg injuries, including a comminuted fracture, meaning that the bone was left in more than 2 places. Doctors used pins and screws in his ankle, as well as rods and plates to stabilize the bones in his leg. Deputy Carlos Gonzalez stated that Woods was driving downhill on a winding road in an area known as a trouble spot for speeding and accidents. There have already been 13 accidents in the same spot just since the beginning of 2020. Early reports suggest that Tiger was not drunk and alcohol was not involved with the accident in any way. As of right now, we are still awaiting any further information that will conclude reasoning for the occurrence of this accident. Back to you, Max.
And we're all hoping for a full recovery for Tiger Woods. Thank you, Grant. We move on to the scary moment on a United Airlines flight this past weekend as the engine exploded mid-flight, pieces of the plane falling into the front lawns of people outside of Denver. But remarkably, no one on board or on the ground was injured. JSA's national correspondent, Abby Cowan, reports.
On Saturday, the engine of a Boeing 777-200 plane exploded in the skies over Colorado. Fortunately, the United pilot was able to make an emergency landing of the flight and nobody was injured. However, this was not the first time a Pratt & Whitney manufactured PW4000 engine exploded in the skies. The same type of engine on the same type of plane exploded 3 years ago over the Pacific Ocean during a flight from San Francisco to Honolulu, and again in December on a Japan Airlines flight from Naha to Tokyo. Considering this recent Colorado event and the engine type's unstable history, all older generation Boeing 777-200 planes have been grounded for further inspection of their PW4000 engines, an engine type only used by the American United Airlines as well as Japan and South Korea. The Denver flight is also being investigated as the Federal Aviation Administration and Pratt & Whitney have come under fire for their inadequate inspection processes, and both companies have vowed to do everything they can to make their planes as safe as possible from now on. This was quite an alarming event, but as always, JSA is here to keep you in the loop. Max?
And that had to be terrifying for all those on board the flight. Thank you, Abby. We turn next to the first airstrike of the Biden presidency, in which 2 F-15 planes dropped 7 missiles on buildings used by Iranian-backed militias. JSA's Sophie Kalman has the latest.
President Biden ordered U.S. airstrikes in Syria, targeting a transit hub nearby multiple militias around the Syria-Iraq border. It is too early to know how many casualties the strike inflicted, but it was designed to be as non-lethal as possible. This was Biden's first known military action since taking office, as he ordered the strikes Thursday morning to be delivered in the evening. The Syrian government is furious, claiming the strike violates international law and calling it cowardly U.S. aggression. The Pentagon said that the strike sends a clear message: Biden will act to protect American and coalition personnel. Earlier this month, the Erbil rocket attack on a U.S. base killed an American service member and 5 other locals in Iraq. The Pentagon is waiting for the results of an Iraqi investigation into this attack. Tuesday, Biden and the Iranian Prime Minister spoke on the phone and agreed that whoever is responsible for the attack must be held accountable. Max?
And we'll stay on it. Thank you, Sophie. This week, there was some major business news overseas as the UK Supreme Court made a ruling on the status of Uber drivers. JSA's business correspondent Dylan Canfield reports on the ruling and its implications.
Uber Technologies lost a key employment rights battle in the United Kingdom Supreme Court. The culmination of this 5-year legal battle between Uber and a group of 25 former drivers awarded the drivers compensation for lost hours and, even more significantly, a change in the employment status of UK's Uber drivers. In the court case, Uber claimed that its drivers were self-employed and that they merely connect the drivers with passengers. Instead of retaining the status of an independent contractor, as Uber argued its drivers were, they will now be considered workers. This will have drastic impacts on Uber's business model in the UK, as workers are entitled to things such as a minimum wage and paid vacation. This court case has spurred other UK drivers to take similar action. Uber is now being sued by 20% of its 60,000 UK drivers for similar compensation, and each person can expect around £12,000 or nearly $17,000 US. Max?
Dylan Canfield reporting on that major decision. Thank you, Dylan. We continue with the weather events from all around the world that you might have missed. For that, we turn to our weather correspondent, Phoebe Cosgrove.
Due in part to a La Niña climate pattern in the tropical Pacific Ocean, scientists are warning that tornado season could be unusually potent in parts of the south and southeast, ramping into overdrive during late March into April. A heat wave is sweeping Queensland, but some relief is expected to come soon. At least 38 people have died nationwide from winter storms or frigid conditions, a time in which more than 2,500 records for the lowest maximum temperature for the date have been set. See you next week, Max.
Phoebe Cosgrove with the weather report. Thank you, Phoebe. Earlier today, President Biden came to Houston to survey the damage from the catastrophic winter storm, talk with local leaders about the recovery process, and to view one of the FEMA mass vaccination sites at NRG Stadium. JSA's Jake Newman reports.
Today, Joe Biden will be coming to Houston. He will meet with local leaders to discuss the winter storm, relief efforts, and progress toward recovery. Joe Biden comes to Houston approximately 1 week after the major crisis that left families without water and power. Back to you, Max.
Jake Newman, thank you. And finally tonight, some good news, as the FDA panel votes unanimously that the J&J vaccine is safe and effective. Now, it's just one vote away from emergency use authorization, and that could come any time this weekend. This is COVID cases, hospitalizations, and deaths have fallen sharply across the country. But we can't forget about the grim milestone hit this week, 500,000 American lives lost due to COVID-19. President Biden and Dr. Jill Biden had a moment of silence outside the White House to commemorate these lives. And it's important to remember, those are not just numbers. Those are 500,000 American lives. And that's this week's JSA Update. From all of us here at JSA, I'm Max Rocket, and I'll see you right back here next week.